This is stage 23, where we attach the motor to the gearbox we've just built. You may have noticed one other thing I've not done is I've not greased this bottom line, which I should have done on that one there. So I'm just going to start by doing that. It only needs just a little bit of grease where these pins are. Just put a bit on there, should do it. And a bit on the other side. Just work that in. There we go. Don't need much. Quite honestly, it doesn't move that often unless you're you change gears a lot. Generally, I don't. Okay. Back to 23, as I was saying. I've got the parts for this, including the trusty motor. I'm using everything's stuck to the magnet in my motor. Just make sure there's nothing else on there. Good. I'm using the Carson Poison truck motor, which, as you probably know, spins a lot slower and has a lot more bottom end torque than the Tamiya stock motor that's supplied. Plus I only want it to do a maximum of about 4 miles an hour, not keep up with the racing cars, lol. Alright, this has to go on the end of here and has to be turned round until it shows the holes for the 2 little screws. They are held on here with MA6s, but before we do that we've got to put the drive gear on, which is that, and it uses an MD2, which is the smaller of 2. As you can see, the same diameter, although they don't look it, but it's only half the length of that one. So that's the MD2, which is the 3mm long one. I need to get my Allen keys out. To pop that in there. There we go. This one has to have some thread lock on it. So just put a little bit of that in there as well. Come on. This certainly is one you don't want to come undo. Undo. It's certainly one you don't want to come undone. There we go. Pop that in there. There we go. Goes on with the shorter end facing inwards, like so. And there needs to be 13mm from the face of that to the outside of that, so that you get it in the right place. Difficult to show you this, but I'm just lining it up with 13mm, which is there. Just going to pinch it up at that first. I was going to, but it's just moved. Let's try that again. It is on 13mm. What you're looking for here is for when that's flush on there, that the gear sits nicely on top of the plastic cog. I mean, that's 13mm, but to my mind it could come out just a fraction further. Well, I haven't done that up tight, so I can't actually, well, tell a lie. Don't think I've done it that tight. Oops, that's bound to be too much. Let's try that. There you go. I prefer that that's nicely sitting on top of that gear now. And that is in fact 14mm, so perhaps 13 is just a guide, I don't know. Just tighten that up now. You do not want that to come undone. There we go, I'm happy with that. Excuse me. Now this is held in place with a couple of 3x6 screws. If I can find it, I'll need a screwdriver to pick it up. A washer, because the one side is adjustable and goes in the adjustable hole there. Trying to turn it round so I can see for you. Put the other side in first. Interestingly, they don't mention anything about thread lock on the motor, but I'm going to put a bit on it and it'll hurt, because surely you're going to get vibrations from the motor. And once again, I would not want these screws to come undone, because they're all encased inside, and you know, you speed, everything goes over the top of it. It'd be a huge job to take it all out again afterwards. Let's turn that round so you can see what I'm doing. It doesn't matter which way around you do that, quite honestly. Screwdriver. Pop that in there. Line up my first hole, which is just about finger tight, which allows you to move this one on this side as well. That's tight, so I'm just backing it off a bit. As you can see, I can move that up and down. What they tell you to do in the instructions is to just set it so that it just runs smoothly. Just for the moment, what I'm going to do is just raise it up an absolute fraction, 0.5 millimetre probably, if that. And just check that you can easily turn that. If you make that too tight, it's going to make the motor hard, difficult to turn. If you make it too loose, it's probably going to wear the teeth out. That actually turns without too much trouble. I might even be able, no, I can't turn it that way. That's quite nice. Double checking that it's not bottoming in there. They show you there not to put it in too tight in the bottom. Might just bring it up just a fraction more. Don't want to move. I just want to feel it just lift an absolute fraction. Like that. Let's just check that again. Yeah, that's good. Tighten those up. Don't need to be massively tight. We've got the thread lock on them. If I can turn that freely, then the motor can spin it freely. Good. Just wipe some of the grease off my hand if I may. So we've got the motor in there. I'm going to put the output pinion on, which is this, with the larger of the two Allen keys, and I've got the last of J parts here, which is J4, which is a spacer to go on there. Don't forget to put that on. Okay, spacer goes in there, stands that off that plastic bush, stops it rubbing. Right. It's only trouble giving a commentary, I forget what I'm doing. That's my excuse anyway. Another one that obviously needs thread lock is the moving part. There we go. This one can go all the way back as far as it will go. No problem at all with it. My Allen key's got a bend in it. Must have been using that a bit tough, a bit tight somewhere. Just make sure that's where I want it first before I tighten it up. Probably hear my clock in the background there. There we go. And I should be able to turn the motor now, look. That's making a knocking noise, which is strange. So I'm just going to pull that off just for a second, just to see if it's in fact the motor that's causing that. Didn't quite go far enough. Let's come up out of the way for a minute. There we go. Gearbox runs freely, so that noise was coming from the connection to the motor. May have it a little bit too tight. Let's just try that and see. That's actually the magnet inside the motor that's making that noise. It's running quite freely. Yeah, you know, you're worried about it when you get it all fixed up. Connect up your speed controller and just give it a razz. See if you're happy with it. But I can still turn that quite freely. I'm happy with that. Right, we now just need to finish off the gear selector shaft. This little bit at the bottom. And we need to put two circlips on there. I'm going to start with the one at this far end. Just putting it somewhere where I can get at it. There we go. My trusty pointed pliers. That's gone on halfway, but not all of the way. That's in place now. That stops that shaft going any further than that. Where did I just put the other one? There it is. And that goes on to there. Just click it into place. It doesn't look as if it's gone all the way on yet. Don't think it has. I'm still not happy with that one. Don't know whether you can see, it's only sort of halfway on. And bum, 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 bum. That's the angle I need. Gotcha! Went on that time. Just make sure that they spin round because they're fully in position. Good, and that stops it going too far that way. That'll work for that one. Last little ball joint here needs to have a little bit of thread lock on it. There we go. I think that's it for thread lock for this section. I'll put that in there. Have a look at the diagram to see which way around this goes. So stands up that way, goes up that way, goes on that one over there and slides on up against that circlip, and that's where you do it up, just there. I'm just going to just grab a nut driver to just pull that up. I think I can just about get at that. Bear with me just one sec. Hopefully I can do. There you go. Doesn't need to be that tight because it's got thread lock on it again, and that's what the shaft will connect to from your servo to allow you to change gears. Okay, one way or the other way, as case may be. Just checking that over. That is all that one needs to do for step 23. Stage 24, the last part of the gearbox and probably the easiest part, is just putting the outer casings on. One goes one side, the other one goes the other. And they're just held together with 5 nuts, 5 screws, sorry, and captive nuts. So we'll just start with one of them. Doesn't matter which one, does it? We'll do that one there for what it's worth. Not going to do it up tight till I've got 2 or 3 in, so I can get the case to line up. There we go, I can do it now. And that one. When this is done, it'll be ready to mount on the chassis, and then we can temporarily rig it up with a speed controller just to check that the drivetrain works and that the gears are configured okay. So there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws. Stage 4 complete. Stage 25, fun part, attaching the gearbox to the chassis. Just before we do, I've got the parts here that I need. Just before we do that, I just need to assemble up the gear selector, or the servo shift rod, to give it the correct name. This is going to link between the servo and the gearbox and give you the ability to change gears. I've got a scale drawing on the top of here which says the distance between these two ball joints should be 33 millimeters. Invariably you'll end up adjusting this slightly just to make sure that your gears, all 3 gears, change properly. But this is a very good starting point. That's on 33. One cap faces up, one cap faces down. Up, down. There we go. Prop shaft between the rear axles and the gearbox has to be put in at the same time as the gearbox. Once the gearbox is in place, you won't be able to fit that. And the gearbox is simply held in with 4 screws. So let's go for it. We do it on the stands, on these trusty stands of mine. Just checking to see if that's coming in okay on the camera. Could probably do with just coming out a fraction on the camera so you can see that a bit better. There we go. And in terms of where we're going to fit it, talk amongst yourselves for a second. I'm just moving this so that you can see what I'm doing. Oops a daisy. Will that do? It will, but those are making it too close to the camera. There we go. That's better. This is going to have grease on both ends. Quite honestly, it's easier to grease these. Like so. That's one in place. There's my cloth. Bit of a knack to get the gearbox to go in on first look. Oh, that's typical, just drop straight in. Normally you have to move them about a bit. I'm just going to hold that up for a second. And just pop it into there. There you go. Now, to try and get the gearbox, try and show you this, to sit flat, you'll notice the wires catching against the servo. That's quite normal with these. You just have to push the wires back a little bit like that, and then it'll sit exactly where you want it to sit, which is there. You can see the 4 holes. No thread lock on these. There's one. And once I've done this, I will connect it up to the speed controller and we'll run it up to make sure that it's all working properly and the gears engage correctly. Good, I've got all 4 in there now, so I'm just going to pull them down a touch. Don't need to be that tight. As long as it holds it down. There we go. So that's in place. Just going to run that bit of grease around that prop joint there. You can see that's all connected up now. Wires are over the top, that's fine. Next little job, or last part of 25 anyway, will be to connect up a little ball race under there, which is the gearbox shaft, and that one there. I'm going to start at this end down here. And there's probably somebody there who's thinking the same as what I'm thinking now. It might have been better to put that on before you put the gearbox in, but hey ho. They're not that hard to put on these. Like that, and like that. Well, you can see that. That's in position now. So we'll be wiring up the steering, the gears and the motor again, just so we can try it all out. But other than that, that's the end of stage 25. Batteries connected, motors connected, steering servos connected, gear servos connected, speedos connected, radios connected up to the beer controller. I'm not bothering to connect it up by USB to the computer because at the moment, because it's already pre-programmed anyway. All I need to do is just switch that on. Switch the transmitter on first. So as you can hear, that sound is working. I'm going to turn that down so you can hear me. This is in cruise control at the moment, so first gear. First gear rather. Second gear. Third gear. Maximum speed. Second gear. First gear. Gears are all engaging okay. Let's try it in reverse. Again, the cruise control is still on. Another thing about the beer is beautiful slow speed control. Concentrate on your steering and not worrying about the throttle. On the subject of steering, see the steering is working. I'm not going to move it much because while it's on the stands it catches against the stands. And turn that up or down. Emergency stop there. Cancel that. Switch D, if I remember rightly, turns off the cruise. Yes, it does. You now just have free control of the motor. I have inertia set to high on the beer, which means that when you let go of the control, it just comes back down to a halt, not in a sudden movement like that. That's all working lovely.